Oh no, we're doing it again. So I have to tell you, it's so sad to see that we got a copyright strike in Turkey.
Well,
Um,
if you were.
I have it under good authority that people in America can still see it and could still see the part. However, um, due to the mighty tech lords, I had promised in the last episode that I was going to show something and show why it was kind of cool because they actually debunked themselves halfway through. Um, but now everything's going to be done in overlays until I figure out how to appease the tech overlords with the right sacrifices and burning of whatever incenses I need to burn. Maybe that coalition, down in Rhode Island, the 2000 on Instagram, could come up with the right incenses, or I could call the local Catholic priest and see if he could bring the thurifer over. And ding, ding, ding. YouTube, do not strike them. The thing that killed me about that
I
was
just feel like it was like, what if they're just banned in Turkey? Like, what if the show itself is just not allowed in Turkey? Like, what if that's why?
it could be, who knows? I mean, the thing that this wire's crazy. The thing that killed me on it was if they bothered to actually see the episode, not only do we give them copyright, like when we're talking about, like, this is from the show Finding Bigfoot in Big Roadie, you know, and at the end, I always put a disclaimer that, all images and, apparatchiks used are the ownership of the copyright owner, and that we don't own anything. And, I try to give as much accreditation as I possibly can to the places. And it's like, clearly we're not claiming to own copyright on Finding
Fine.
Bigfoot.
But
And in
no.
fact, I mean, other than my personal like of several members of their team, um, I don't want to own Finding Bigfoot because I don't think 15 people wandering around in the woods with camera packs are going to find.
No,
I
but
don't think
if
they're going
James
to find a
Gates wants to give
dare.
us a share in his expeditions, I'll take it.
That's true, 100%. Actually, I would love to hook up with either Expedition Bigfoot or Finding Bigfoot, or actually, I'm going to be bringing up this smaller group that, again, I don't know if I can share their stuff because I don't think they're copywritten. It's a YouTube release. So I don't know if I
Oh.
should share it, or if I'm just going to show who it is and then be like, if you want to see this, go ahead and watch it. But
You might be able to put the link in like an overlay or something. Like there used to be a way you could link the two video, like a video that you wanted people to like click on and see. I don't know how to do it, but like there used to be a way.
I don't know. I'll try.
It's like Google,
What I do
Google.
know is that the editing process, the first episode editing took me maybe 2 to 3 hours. Episode four editing was 8 or 9 hours
Well,
of editing
I made
because
a reel.
if that's true.
I
Um,
contributed.
so we're blasting off. We're going to northern New England.
Yes.
I feel like Matt Monkey Maker. No, Money Maker. Matt, if you hear this, that was total slip of the tongue. Where he's like, we're off to Maine in the way that he would say it on the show. Did you know that this is the most forested state for its size in the United States? Actually, true. Fact check, true. It is one of the more forested states in the United States. Um, and as such, I mean, first of all, Maine has everything in it. It has cryptos. It's got
It's got like eight
ghosts.
sea monsters.
Yep, it's got sea monsters. And in
Oh, that was
fact,
crazy. I was like,
um,
what?
I think I can probably share this without getting in trouble because it's a public use thing. Over here, let's see. I'm not going to do an audio thing. I'm just going to show something. Um, and that is this. In Maine is the International Cryptozoology Museum.
Oh, that's pretty
And
cool.
and the guy that you see, this is on their exhibitions page, and you can see that they have the mermaid from P.T. Barnum. They have a whole bunch of things, and then of course they have a lot on the Bigfoot. But the gentleman who runs this, or I think he actually started it and owns it. I think he actually started it with his own collection of like 10,000 different pieces that he had collected. This gentleman here, Lauren Coleman, is one of the very first books I ever read on cryptozoology was by this guy. I never knew. I mean, when I bought the book, I was clearly living in Rhode Island. I think, you know, your mom and I were together at this point. I didn't know that he was located in Portland, Maine. Like, I mean, it's a 3-hour drive, 4-hour drive from where we were living. So I wish I had known that. But yeah, they just moved from, I believe, yeah, Portland, and now they have a new location in Bangor, Maine. And it is a wonderful resource for people who are interested in the cryptozoological and the such. And my understanding is they actually have a Bigfoot sighting in New England wall board, you know,
Oh, that's
like
pretty cool.
where people put in push pins where they've seen Bigfoot and everything. Because when you get to the East Coast of the United States, you know, if you and this will go up in the overlays, when you get to the East Coast of the United States, there's a couple of states that have outsized reports. Okay, you know,
Gotcha.
you have Pennsylvania, which has, I mean, they do expeditions in Pennsylvania. They've done expeditions in Maine and New Hampshire, but there are 21 or 22 reports on BFRO, which again, you know, the general gist is take the number and times it by 10, and that's probably the accurate number. And in fact, my wires are really weird today. The one time that I had like one of those like moments in the woods was on the Kakamega in
Lovely. New Hampshire.
New Hampshire along the Saco River, which goes right into Maine. And one of the things again, and this will go up in the overlay, on the county in Maine that has the most Bigfoot sightings is Oxford County. And Oxford County is right, as I said, the Saco River goes right through Oxford County, to my understanding, and Oxford County is attached to New Hampshire. And of course, there are a ton of reports as well from New Hampshire and then Pennsylvania. You know, the rest of New England, there's a smattering of reports. There's a couple in Vermont. There's, like I said, 3, I think, in Rhode Island total. But there's a ton in Maine. There's 22 or 21 at least listed. The most recent was Oxford County, August 2022 or 22, 2022. What the hell happened to my brain cells? And the oldest apparently
Wait, what?
is in Piscataquis. Piscataquis. I'm not saying that
You tell
right.
us how to
I
pronounce
can't
that.
say that right. And the most recent the most recent report from Piscataquis is the oldest known report in Maine, and it's 1970, November of 1970. And I do believe, and I will double check this, I do believe that's actually talked about in the Finding Bigfoot episode that's called the Big Maine Event, or the main event or something like that. Because they're the first group, I'm using the term kind of loosely, that seriously took the thought of Bigfoot east of the East Coast or east of the Mississippi.
This is
Um,
like east of the East Coast. What do you mean?
and in
Paddleboarding up
fact,
there?
yeah, I don't know what's happening to my brain cells. And in fact, and again, this will go up in overlays. Small town monsters. Actually, I think I'm going to show this one. Tech overlords, if you're watching, close your eyes for just a minute. So small town monsters, these people here, they produce small documentaries, and by small I mean 49 minutes, so not small. By the way, if you're looking on my screen, there's like, you see all these little notches, those are all the commercials you're going to have to sit through. But small town monsters are actually people who, some
Shit.
of them are based here in the Houston area, and some are based in Mississippi, I believe. And I've been watching their stuff for years. They've grown from this very, very small outfit of 2 or 3 people to a pretty big powerhouse in the cryptozoology world, particularly dealing with Sasquatch and what they call the North American wood ape. But the Maine Bigfoot documentary, I've actually watched this one, the Pine Tree State one. It's very, very well done. And one of the things I do like about them is they're just camping. Like they're out there camping. And they're not, they're not crashing through the woods with a huge camera crew. They're crashing through the woods with a very small camera crew.
Ah,
And truly scrolling down to some of the things. And by the way, if you do want to catch them, go to Small Town Monsters. They're very, very good. One of the things I do like is they also interviewed this guy here, Doug Hayashek, who is the producer of the show on History Channel. What is it? Oh, Monster Quest. The show is called Monster Quest. And he's quite a fascinating person too. But if you just go down into the comments, right away, what you see is sighting eastern shore of Chesapeake Lake back in 2015. The Durham gorilla, fascinating because my grandfather, registered Maine guide, and so you see these things. But one of the things I do like is when they don't find anything, they don't manufacture anything. So this particular comment really caught my eye. Not at all angry about a lack of findings from your trip. It was just cool seeing you and have you guys talk about it. And they get a lot of really good comments. And
yeah.
I do enjoy them. I actually do subscribe, even though it says subscribe. This must be because of the Toastie Ghosties channel that I'm currently on. Because I actually,
because you're not like the normal channel, I think.
yeah, because I do watch pretty much everything that they've had come out. They've got a couple of really good specials that they did dealing with the Minerva monster and Ohio grassman and stuff, but the stuff that they did in New England, they have two that I'm aware of from New England, plus New York, which is not really part of New England. But the Pine Street State one, which is Maine, and then they did one for New Hampshire, and their New Hampshire one is fantastic, and I'm sure I will mention again. And then the last thing I'm going to mention and show is the Bigfoot in Maine by Michelle Soulier, and she actually did a 25 or so minute interview not on Facebook, on YouTube as well. And they feature this book, by the way, in the Small Town Monsters one, and this has 21 sightings in it.
Cool.
Now some of them, again, they correspond to the BFRO correspondence, but they don't all correspond to that. So it's interesting. Again, I keep going back to this idea of with cryptids and cryptozoology. Am I stroking out here? Let me have coffee. Is
Probably gonna make it so much better or so much worse.
Well, if you're watching this right now, I don't actually usually speak this fast, but yeah, I feel like I just got a little Ben Shapiro going on in there today. Like I might as well be a rapper. The thing with this is, again, it doesn't all correspond to the 21 that are in the BFRO website.
Right.
And I definitely enjoy that. So again, this is a good read, by the way. I actually own a copy of this as well, of course. And I 100% say, like, you should grab it if you're watching this episode and read about these events. And then again, Lynn Smith and the Bigfoot Project, she has several great stories that are out of Maine as well. Most of them all deal with that Oxford County section. And my thing with that is, and I believe this to deep, it's because of the Appalachian Trail. Because the Appalachian Trail rolls right up through,
right,
that area. And again, even when we're dealing with Big Rody, that area that they went to was right off of the Appalachian Trail, as it crosses between Rhode Island, Connecticut. But the Appalachian Trail going up right through New Hampshire into Maine. Yeah, I think they probably use that. And knowing a guy who has walked the Appalachian Trail more times than I would like to recount, the fact that he's never, reported anything, it shocks me. I know Bigfoot could be in the background tap dancing with a top hat down, but there could be a wildflower to take a picture of.
That's what I was gonna say, is there could be a very pretty wildflower and that consumes
Yep,
the attention
could.
wholly and completely, to the point where he will walk into a river full of alligators. Just saying.
Yes, could be. Could be. Don't grab that snake. It's got the fangs and stuff. Um, it's interesting. I do appreciate though the
Nobody.
amount of reports that are in Maine. I appreciate the fact that there's one that they talk about specifically in the Bigfoot Project with Lynn Smith, where they were canoeing down the Saco River between, I think it's Fryeburg, Maine, and North Conway or Conway, New Hampshire, where this took place, and they were just howled at from both sides of the river.
You're
And
like, what
eventually,
the hell?
yeah. Well, eventually they were, they canoe faster, Mark.
I was like,
Let's go.
no,
Why are we going in circles? Oh no, that's us. And
we're
the thing,
not good at canoeing. We are not good.
no, no. Let's canoe in a place with alligators and dolphins. That'll be fun.
I mean,
And
I did manage to hit a tree while paddleboarding
that
in
is
ocean. Like,
also true, legit true.
we are not good at this.
But the thing that I definitely appreciated was, when they were describing the area of the Saco River, I don't know, it's Sacco. So if you're out there and you know how to pronounce it, put it into the comments with phonetics so I'd stop saying it wrong, whichever way is right. And the thing is, eventually they had, rocks tossed and all this other stuff. And, of course,
God,
the
I
first
would
thing you think of is
panic.
like, you're like, oh, it must be teenagers, it must be kids. And you're like, there's not a road for 5 miles. That's going a long way
To toss some
to,
rocks at
you
us.
know, there was an interview I watched with a guy. There's a show that I think is called Why They Search for Bigfoot, and um it's a guy from Ohio, I think, Mark DeWorth, his name maybe, don't quote me on that. But he was talking about how he was hiking and he went over a deadfall tree and moved a bush out of the way and found a footprint, and that where he was hiking was 3 to 4 miles off trail, like no roads, forget about roads, he was off trail. And and of course the first comment that somebody did when he released his little thing on it was, oh, somebody probably planted it there. And he's like, who the
Behind
hell,
a tree.
yeah, is going,
Um,
like, there's a deadfall tree, let me take out my Bigfoot stomper that I've carried for 3 miles
Mile.
into the woods, move this bush, stomp, move the bush back in the way, and then tiptoe out of the way so nobody can see it. But again, it's it was one footprint because he
Hopping.
hopped really far.
He's hopping. I'm telling you. I am telling you. That is my biggest Bigfoot conspiracy theory out there, is that Bigfoot is secretly one-legged and hopping through the woods. And I will not be hearing arguments against it. I do not care how impractical it is. This is my this is my hill.
Well, I definitely I want to get in contact with Small Town Monsters and see as we go through these, because some of the stuff in the stories they've collected are phenomenal. I just don't want the tech overlords to pull the episode down if I show it. So I'm saying, categorically, I've watched the main episode. I've also watched all the other episodes they've put out, but I've watched everything to do with Maine Bigfoot sightings. What are you looking at?
I keep getting distracted by things. That
Squirrel?
time it was the smoke detector that I forgot to take the painter's tape off of.
Oh my God.
On
I think I
the wall.
sent you a text about that after I was in your apartment in June.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just for reference, those of you who don't know, we are September 7th today.
I know. I
Okay.
just haven't bothered, and then every once in a while I look up at it, I'm like, I really should do that, but then I gotta get the paint out, and then I gotta repaint around the damn thing, and I just don't want to.
Well, at any moment, the unspoken secret here, if nobody knows this, is a lot of times because of our time zone differences, we're filming and I'm in my office, and they're putting a new smart board in my classroom part of my office. So at any moment you may have a really large guy named Victor come crashing through going,
I like
hey,
Victor.
we are we're going to finish this. So if we seem like we get cut off, we got cut off. But we'll just pick up anyways. So tell me about sea monsters and ghosts.
Okay, so
or
I'm
whichever it is you actually did. Because I mean, we could extend Maine a couple of days if we really wanted to.
we're gonna have to extend Maine a couple of days. I don't know if you saw my text message, but we can deal with that after.
Yeah, I did actually see that.
Okay. I
And
just need
I'm fine with that.
okay,
By the way,
I
I'm
need
going to
to
tease this. Can we tease
huh?
this? Can we tease this?
Yeah, sure. I need to call her and to
Right.
confirm a day. So I need you to tell me your availability that week.
Um, anytime after 6 p.m. will work for me if we had to do that. My 6 p.m. after the night bus.
Okay.
Um,
As I said, because I think she's my time.
okay. But if you get daytime times, I'll check it out. But yeah, be looking in the future. We actually had a great reach out from
Later.
this wonderful author whose name I don't remember off the top of my head.
Come on, Dad.
It's not Evangeline, it's the other author,
No,
right?
yeah, it's a different author.
Um, and she
Michelle.
actually had done Michelle. She
There you go.
has done this book on hauntings in Maine, and found out that we were going up to Maine for our next little talk about adventure. And she was like, "Hey, I would really love to share this story with you." And I'm just super stoked to do that. So we're gonna actually in
Have
sometime
a
in
guess.
October have a guest
I'm so
and
excited.
an extra episode on this state, because I do want to hear her story. And I'm excited because again, Maine is haunted AF, let's be honest.
It's super crazy, actually. I was gonna leave that ghost story to her because I think
Yes,
she
definitely.
told it far better than I could research. Um, but yeah, Maine is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Like you Google like sometimes if you're looking up like ghost stories of Rhode Island, for example, you'll get a ghost story that's included on a list of like hauntings in New England and stuff. And a lot of the ghost stories in Rhode Island, you kind of got to know like you either know about them because you've lived there or you know about them because somebody has lived there and you speak to them or whatever. Like there's a bunch of reported ones, but not like this. You Google ghost stories in Maine and you get like lists of just hauntings in Maine, like exclusive to Maine. It's not included on like the whole like, oh, best hauntings in New England. It's like its own thing, right? Um, so I pulled four, but I'm going to talk about three ghost stories in Maine. And then I Googled sea serpents in Maine because I was kind of curious. Maine seems to have a like serpent problem. Like
Don't they have a repeated one, like one that's come back and forth, like come and gone a few times?
they have
Or
at
is that mass?
no, they have like seven or eight sea serpent like issues or lake serpent, like either way. One of them goes back to like 1547. Like
So why don't
they
we do this? Let's concentrate on the ghost stories for this episode, and then next episode, I really like. I want to dig into the sea serpent. I want to hear everything you have on it.
oh, one of them is like tied to like aliens. It's nuts. Like it was absolutely
Well,
crazy.
that's where I was heading. My next thing on Maine
Oh,
is, yeah,
aliens. Anyway, so back to the ghosts because we are
ghosts.
squirrels and we go little our attention goes very quickly.
Hey, this
Anyway,
is shiny.
huh?
I said,
Um,
hey, this is shiny. So is my
um
forehead. Sorry. Go on, please. Oh God, we're gonna run out of time again.
I have
So
tears.
ghosts in Maine.
I'm working on it. Okay. There's a lot of them. Um, there's a lot of haunted roads in Maine. Um, one of them was Route 2A, which is supposedly like you have a lot of truck drivers who would crash on this one specific bend while bringing potatoes to Boston, and you would think after like the sixth or seventh crash they would like do something about this, but no, the bend is still there, still kicking. So you would see like almost like ghost trucks, which is kind of crazy. But then also there's this other issue where there's rumors that the specter of a woman screaming at like rest stops, people would see her and she'd be like screaming for help, saying like her husband crashed in a semi truck and she needs help and she needs to get to him, all this stuff. And then the people would go out to help her and she would go goodbye, like vanish into thin air. There also has been sightings of the ghost of a little girl who got hit by a semi truck. So like this route seems to have a truck problem. Like it's got a ghost problem, but like it seems to have a truck issue.
Maybe it's just
Um,
because Stephen King lives in Maine, and
that
half of
could
these sound
be it.
like plots to his books.
Honestly, it could be it. There's the Shohagen Theater. I think I'm saying that right. Um, it's a movie theater, and it opened in 1929. Now, I heard a couple of different stories about the origins of said ghost in the theater. One of them was that a woman lived above the theater and she died, but she didn't
Didn't
leave.
leave.
Yeah, she just decided, hey, I'm gonna hang
You're
around
not
now.
throwing me out, man.
But the patrons of the theater report whispers, phantom shadows, touches, and then more recently there's been issues with electronic starting that have been unplugged, which categorically should not be happening.
Not
Rearrangement
battery
of
operated
furniture.
either.
Yeah. There's been like rearrangement of furniture and like poltergeist like levitations. Not a place that I would be visiting. Sounds a bit like a horror movie, to be honest with you. Like I'm good. So apparently, so it's gotten much worse over the years. Is what I've read, which is interesting because I'm kind of curious why the hauntings have suddenly gotten worse. Um,
So
there's
are you saying that there's more reported hauntings in the modern age than like going back years? Is that what you're
well,
saying?
not only is there more reported hauntings, but there seems to be more violent hauntings. Like at first it was just phantom shadows, like whispers, that type of thing. And now it's, furniture rearranging itself, electronics turning on, levitations, like pages blowing off things. Like it doesn't seem to have calmed down. It's escalated, which is odd because I don't think there's been any more deaths in the theater. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I thought that was a little weird. There's an inn in Kennebunk.
In a bunk port.
Yeah, that one.
That's where George W. Bush, no, George H.W. Bush, the first Bush president, he had a house there. I actually went to it once. That's an interesting town. That's an old ass town.
Yes. Um, but anyway, there's an inn there. It was built in 1799, originally as a private home, and it was converted into a tavern in 1928. A man died of a heart attack there. The man was in his 80s. He was a frequenter of the tavern. I guess it was a little odd when he died. People thought he was kind of joking a little bit. Um, which is unfortunate. Poor dude. And he's said to haunt the place, but he's said to be rather friendly. Like he just plays light pranks on employees that he doesn't really like, which I think is just hilarious. Like he haunts over the place. They've like dubbed him the Night Watchman. And he just decides, you know what, this person's not a good worker. Let me prank the hell out of them. Like, I think that's so funny.
Can I interrupt and just say that
Yes.
the Colony Hotel, which is what I'm assuming you're talking about right now.
No, I'm talking about the Kennebunk Inn.
Oh, well, so Kennebunkport, Maine, has something called the Colony Hotel, which is also a haunted hotel in Kennebunkport. And honest to God, the first trip advisor that comes up on it is lovely hotel. It even has a ghost or two. So I just thought that was
Excellent.
awesome. All right, going
No, that
on.
is really funny. No, this guy just it's like lightly haunted. It's like a little sprinkle of haunted. Like the ghost seems to just be satisfied to be there, watch over the place, and prank employees he doesn't like. Like, I think that's so funny. If I was a ghost, I would do the same thing. Be like, yeah, no, you're just annoying me. And like one of the things was like a beer like stein had like lifted and like kind of lightly tapped this one particular employee on the back of the head, and it would like continue to happen. Um, so it was interesting. Like, I don't know. This ghost is just playing pranks on people.
Hmm, I like it. Oops.
I also would like to play pranks on people.
Well, I've definitely decided that if I get to be a
Oh,
ghost,
this timer.
I know. If I get to be a ghost, I am 100% going to be the ghost that's going to needle people.
Yes,
You
I
know.
will be the ghost that sits there and it's like, oh, you need a number 2 pencil for your exam? Here, have a blue glitter gel pen.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% haunting the students who drove me nuts.
Like, I will sit here and just make sure your life is a little bit more difficult than you need it to be. But then if you're having a really bad day, I'll leave like a coffee.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for dropping the beer stein. Here's a coffee.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I know this is entirely my fault, but
so haunted Maine seems like it's quite haunted.
Maine
Um,
is quite haunted.
and one of the things that I actually had been specifically looking for myself was I had heard stories that the Algonquin um playhouse in Maine is haunted.
I saw
But
that too, but I had to pick three.
and it's interesting. It definitely so there is a book that has that's called the haunting tales of Algonquin out there. So it's kind of interesting. But also if you go to hauntedplaces.org, um, there is supposedly Revolutionary War soldiers that you may see at the Algonquin Playhouse. I only brought up that particular place because I've been there. I've been to the Playhouse, and it's pretty new in the sense of the place itself. But I mean, the land of Maine is very old. you
Right.
know and one of the things, and this is, I think this ties to both things, is like one of the reasons I think you have so many like the sea monster sightings and the the cryptids, the aliens, the whole nine yards, is number one, there's not a ton of people up there. It's a
Right.
pretty forested area, and even where there are people, a lot of people are only there during the summers. And I
Right.
think things get very used to being able to move, and I'm speaking specifically of Bigfoot type creatures. I think they get used to being able to move with fair impunity because they're not used to seeing people. But then, when people come, they're like, oh shit. You know.
Who's that?
Um,
Yeah.
so interestingly, I okay, I get it now. So there was a movie years ago called The Witches of Eastwick. I thought that was actually took place in New York, but I thought for a half second that it was based in Maine, because I don't know where Eastwick is. I don't know if that actually exists as a place. And I had seen that tied to Algonquin Playhouse. I was like, oh wow, that's kind of interesting. But come to find out, they were actually talking about the play, The Witches of Eastwick, that they were producing in 2014.
Oh,
So anyways,
um, wildly off topic, but not really. What is the piano picture behind you?
I found it in somebody else's classroom, and I said, you don't have a right to have a piano picture in your classroom because you don't have a piano. So I brought it
It's
to my classroom. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It definitely, I
like
mean,
it's really creepy. Like the more I look at it, the more I'm like, I don't like that.
it's either charcoal or pencil. It's all shaded. It's really quite nice. I actually quite like it. But the angle which my camera is at makes it look like the everything's stretched out a little bit. So if you look at
Yeah,
it just straight on the ground, it doesn't look like a haunted piano. Definitely not haunted.
played by human hands.
Played by human hands at least twice in the last 6 months,
Yes,
which also tells you who else has been playing my
playing the
piano.
piano. Yeah, yeah. No, it just I don't know. It like freaks me out from here.
Well, that's good. I'll put like Halloween lights around it and call it a day.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to, I'm going to look at aliens for the next episode. And I have to tell you, um, if you just Google aliens in Maine, alien encounters in Maine, you get 4,860,000 results. The top of which is first a book called UFOs Over Maine, Close Encounters from the Pine Tree State, followed immediately by a PBS video, like a public broadcast system, called First Contact, an alien encounter, which talks about basically close encounters of the third kind, but the Maine variety. So yeah. And then followed by, and this is from January 4th of 2023. This is a headline: UFO sightings in Maine are way up despite a lower official count. And I have to say this: we are now living in a world where the government has official counts of UFO encounters. Now they can change it to UPAs or whatever,
Whatever it is now.
unidentified or UAPs, as unidentified aerial phenomenon, all they want. But they definitely have some history. I believe one of the very first close encounters of a third kind, meaning like actual like encounter versus like see the lights. I think that actually happened in Maine, if I remember correctly. I have to look it up. I'll fact check myself in the overlays.
I don't know. I'm not very, very hip to the alien encounters. The only reason I knew about the lake alien creature situation is because I was just looking at sea creatures in Maine.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll be an interesting one. And I also want to tease October just a little bit. So and that is obviously we're going to have our first guest in October, which is just super exciting. And we really were wondering if we were going to have one person watch this that wasn't ourselves. But the fact that there are actually people watching this just makes me so excited. But on top of that, what? Who aren't related?
I said, or directly related, yeah.
Well, I will say that one of our direct relations was like, well, it's really not for me. Thanks.
You mean my mother?
Yeah, your mother. But on top of that, we thought it would be fun, to look at the biggest Halloween cities. So we're going to call this Halloween Wars, and hopefully the tech overlords will not strike us for hurting Food Network. There's not going to be food, and while there might be a picture of a pumpkin or two, but the Halloween Wars of the 4 weeks of October.
Just call it Ghost Wars.
Oh, Ghost Wars. I like that. And I am actually reaching out for another guest. I don't know if he'll grant the time. Grant is a hint of his name. But I would love to see if we could get either Grant or Jason Hawes of Taps on with us, just even for 5 minutes. So I'm reaching out to him. If it works, it works. I'll put it in the overlay if it ever comes to fruition, or we'll announce it here. But we do have our first guest in October.
I just want to talk about St. Augustine and how very creepy the place is. That's all I got.
So I'm actually thinking if
I'm terrified of it. Like I am genuinely terrified of the entire city. I'm like,
well, no. I have to say, we'll tease St. Augustine this way. We definitely have to talk about the vampire tour thing.
Oh God. Like literally we had to drive through it on our way to Cinnamon Beach when we went last year. And the whole time I was like, nope. Like, drive faster.
Do you remember going to the fortress?
Yes.
In St. Augustine and being like, looking at your mom and saying, I gotta get out of here. This place is bizarre. Yeah. So yeah.
No offense to anybody who lives in St. Augustine. I'm just scared of the place.
Is that going to be our first stop for October? Is going to be St. Augustine, or is it? Because I know what Halloween night's going to be. I already chosen Halloween or Halloween night release. Well, you agreed. All right, we're down to less than a minute. And I'm down to like 10 minutes to get ready. So we will see you, or I will see you. And as we say, it's super fun to do this. I hope people enjoy it. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't like it, don't tell us.
Yeah.
Because we're still going to do it anyways, because it's fun for us.
Well, that and we're incredibly sensitive individuals. I'll start crying.
We're right on the sleeve. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Bye.